right, then thank you, and I hope you have enjoyed those segments. And we are here now with an esteemed leader here who wanted to come in live for this taped and interview style procedure. And so, Mr. Garry Harris, President of Sustainable Solutions. And so, Mr. Harris, tell the audience who you are, sir.
Thank you so much for having me here. You know, first, before talking to them about me, I'm going to talk to them about what today is. And today is Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day!
So
Absolutely.
Oh man, I told that Uber driver to go to get here on time.
Right.
Because today is Earth Day. You know, and everything that I do in my life is all about making a more just, sustainable, equitable, and resilient world for all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I manage a few companies. You know, first the Center for Sustainable Communities. We're all about making communities greener, cleaner, healthier, safer, and more climate resilient through equity and environmental justice. And then also HCS Enterprise, which is energy engineering. You know, and then the Sustainability Solutions Group, which is all about making our world as sustainable as possible. So everything that I do revolves around this green space. You know? It's really my passion and purpose. It's really what I think I'm called to do in this life.
Yeah.
You feel like this is just not something that you're working on, but it's something that you are called out there, and that your passion as well. Even when you request to tell that Uber driver to go, that was one of those battery charged cars.
I was hoping it was, and it wasn't solar powered as well. But we gonna get there on that.
Absolutely.
But you know, in order to make this world transition to one that is more greener, you know, we all have got to take responsibility to do that. And that means changing our behaviors. I mean, we love all this great food, you know, that we're eating in terms of the meats and some of the vegetables, et cetera, you know, but all of it can have an impact on our planet.
Right.
You know, we love these great cars. You know, that Uber car was fancy. It was laid out and such, you know, but you know, we need to be mindful of our transportation choices. And also our houses, you know, we love them big and broad and that sort of thing as well. But then they too absorb a lot of energy to takes a lot of materials to build and such. So it's our choices, first and foremost, you know, to help the transition this planet.
And seeing that the lumber prices are too exorbitantly high in transition right now, the perfect concept right now would be for the tiny home community to be there, because that's a way to save the community energy. And so, and what you're talking about. And so we want to let you know that the products that we do have and everything we do is sustainable. And particularly all the foods and vegetables and products we use in cooking is all Georgia grown. We're South Fulton made. And so that, you know, and Representative Mendy St. Thomas is the champion for the causes of everything that is going on in that field right there with agriculture.
Fantastic. You know, one of the solutions that we're looking at in this space in terms of climate, as far as Georgia is concerned, is food and ag. But matter of fact, I was up 4 o'clock this morning researching food and ag organizations. There are 245 food and ag organizations in Georgia, and we're trying to select just a handful to look at a climate-based solution to see whether or not our solution is spot on. So yeah, you know, food and ag is right in here in terms of sustainability. Yeah.
Right. Well, Mr. Harris, you did mention that you are the president of Sustainability Solutions. Can you tell us some of the things that you're doing environmentally wise to mitigate the environmental issues in Georgia?
Give me a topic, and I'll give you a product and solution and such. Give me a topic.
Well, number one topic.
Okay.
Fast food industry.
Oh, fast food industries and such. Okay, processed food. Yeah. What we're doing in that space is transforming green spaces into good food. Okay, we've carved out a project called Eco Districts. So we're taking an entire community and such, and doing a deep dive into the community. But one thing we're looking at is eliminating food deserts and such. And how we're doing that is by identifying the green spaces in those communities and transforming those spaces into food production spaces as well. So we in one community we found 8 spaces, so we can be doing food production. We're gonna have a farmers market. We're gonna be doing composting. Maybe another one with yoga going on. That sort of thing. But then having those transformations in those communities, I guess we have local food. You know, in order to reduce health disparities, folks have got to eat right. You know, they got to gotta push back from the table a bit, you know, and absorb those things which are great. You know, and a lot of those fast food stores, great fast food, you know, but high in fats, high in salts, high in just bad stuff, you know, so more local the better.
So you do agree that there's a food insecurity
Oh,
issue?
absolutely, absolutely. And again, that's one of the primary things that we need to tackle. Because what happens is, you know, these Family Dollars, you know, and I'm sorry, I don't want to call them by names, but these processed food stores that parachute into our communities and such, you know, they've got great choices in terms of candy bars and potato chips and stuff like that, but they don't afford us the types of foods that we need, you know, and it's the elimination of these health disparities, which is going to prevent heart disease, you know, which is going to prevent respiratory disease, blood ailments, etc., etc. It all centers on food, how we eat it, how we grow it, and what we do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And
right.
their economic ecosystem situation of affordability
Oh,
and what
absolutely.
they can afford.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
so would you say the livable wage job of, what is kind of outdated now, but currently still the $15 an hour wage,
Well,
would be an equitable situation?
you need, in order to create a more sustainable world, we've got to have decent work. Okay, we've got to have sustainable wage jobs. Okay, well, one of the things that we do in this space is that we're actually crafting a community benefits agreement. Okay, and that's where we've got a low-income community and such, and directly across the tracks we have 130 companies. 130 companies. So the low-income community is here, 130 companies here with decent work, sustainable wage jobs, great career pathways. Ain't talked to each other in 60 years. Okay, so we're putting in place a community benefits agreement. More than that, we're setting up a electronic portal such that the companies can input into the portal and then output over here into the community. We're excited about that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, I studied climate change
Oh.
under former U.S. President Al Gore.
Oh,
I know
fantastic.
you were a champion for climate change. Us as elected officials, what can we do to push what's called the dirty word, climate change in our communities?
By pushing great policy. It all starts with policy. It all starts with legislation that works for the people. It's all about targeted, specific rules which lead to a more decarbonized society and such. And that can be, for instance, reducing emissions. We have a policy, for instance, that says that all buildings in Georgia have to be audited to ensure that they're operating as efficient as possible. We could say locally, in certain cities that we're going to transform our fleets from using gas-powered vehicles into EVs and such, or electric vehicles. On the state level again, we could say that in terms of food and ag, we're gonna work with the most efficient processes possible to reduce water, to reduce fertilizer, to reduce pesticide consumption. On the local level again, we could say, hey, we've got to reduce our carbon footprint. So every building in our city, is going to go through an audit. We're going to change our light bulbs. We're going to make our HVAC systems as efficient as possible. So, and today, right now, as we speak, the federal government is launching an initiative where they want to reduce emissions by 52%. That is significant. That is unheard of. That is a game-changing moment, not only for climate, but in human history as well. It's going to elevate our productivity, elevate our quality of life, elevate who we are as a country, and make us a leader. And the jobs
Absolutely.
are going to be phenomenal.
And not only those jobs are just skilled in above minimum wage or livable wage, those are skilled in which we're talking about federal government and the Davis-Bacon Wage Act.
That's right.
And so, but we also talk about policy, and one of the things that we pride ourselves as elected officials, Representative Mandisa, A. Thomas, and myself, is that we love policy.
Yeah.
but we also have to have implementation plan and enforcement of the policy.
That's right.
And so that we want the
Compliance.
holistic approach of that, and so, and that takes all people coming together
That's right.
at the round table
That's right.
to discuss from the business side and the community side,
That's right.
and what can we do out there to, and how can we come together, because at the end of the day, you know, a good policy is both sides give up something, and it comes out with an effective output that is, everybody can live with.
That's right.
And so that's the balancing act. So where do you see that going?
Well, you know, it takes all stakeholders coming to the table to craft good policy and such. And, you know, I help to
Implementation and enforcement.
That's right. Implementation, compliance, and enforcement.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So and I had the Green New Deal in another state, you know, and there we as advocates and activists have worked with state legislators to craft legislation around eliminating the use of fossil fuels, around transformation of our transportation systems. I head up the Transportation and City Sustainability Working Group for the Green New Deal and such. So there we have advocates from all around the state, you know, and coming together in a coalition to craft or initiate good legislation, and then working with state legislators and going through that process and such. You know, we come up with legislation that works for everybody, but we have to have all the voices at the table,
Right.
particularly those who are underserved and marginalized, and typically those who are not seldom heard and not and don't have the opportunity to interject themselves into the process.
Right.
So again, it's a holistic approach.
Absolutely, and that's why this education and this awareness symposium is bringing up to make the people aware of the organizations that is in and around their communities, so they can get engaged.
That's
Because we do have to have that engagement, and people who are underserved now have a voice to the voiceless. Now the voiceless voices are being heard and felt throughout the region, and by introducing people like yourself, and we're advocates for this cause, to exposing people to be educated and aware of their surroundings.
Well, and, you know, we have to, and I appreciate y'all, but everything that we do has to be equity centered. Okay. We have to be justice first in this. We have to be people first in this. You know, we have to ensure that there's a level playing field. You know, and again, that everyone is part of the process. Not just developers,
Right.
You know?
Exactly. That's why I said all coming to the round table.
Right.
Because
Everybody is
as-
part of that
Right.
process.
Because as the implementator of the coin phrase everybody want to use, I just want to take the time out to pay homage to my good dear friend here, who equalizing communities first came out of her mouth that I heard, particularly in the South.
Fantastic. We need those champions. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this, Mr. Harris. When you think about environment, you think about agriculture. It's intertwined.
Right.
So if you have environment, you have agriculture. If you have agriculture, you have environment.
Right.
Our president understands the need for climate change. He understands the need for agriculture.
Right.
He understands the injustices that are present in our social society right now. What is it that can be done with the billions of dollars that President Biden is pumping into the economy right now for environmental justice and agriculture? How can Georgia take a hold of that to bring our situation up?
Tremendous question there. President Biden has proposed a multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure bill and such, and that bill will work wonders for job creation. First and foremost, besides ag, the way that we can reduce climate is to focus on buildings and building up the infrastructure and making building retrofits, going in and doing audits and assessing them, and then getting folks to go in and change out light bulbs, HVAC systems, et cetera, et cetera. Ag is important as well. We need, and if we look at the entire ag process, you know, there's the land preparation, you know, there's the seeding and planting, there's the transportation and logistics, et cetera. All of that can be green. All of that can be driven in a sustainable manner. But and also President Biden has said, hey, you know, I want 40% of the climate benefits, you know, going to going to minority communities in a Justice 40 initiative. That means those black farmers and those small farmers and such can get a piece of this pie, coming down the pike here. The problem is, though, we've got to make sure that although these billions are coming down, that somehow they're transferred, to those farmers, and to increase their productivity and increase their share of the market and such. But at the same time, besides the benefits are not only going to be in dollars, but the benefits are going to be in research. The benefits are going to be in productivity increases. The benefits are going to be in ways to increase our precious quantities of water. The benefits are going to be in increasing our yields, etc. So all of that will help to sustain climate. Also, from a land use perspective, we've got to maintain our forests. Love my agriculture, love to eat, but we've got to maintain our marshlands, our wetlands, our forests, and such. We can't be reaping those forests for energy use or for lumber use, for timber use, because they act as carbon sinks. Now, the farming areas you did as well, the one we plant, the more CO2 they absorb, but trees, really work well for us, and if we harvest them and reap them in overabundance and such, we're taking away the capability to remove carbon out of the air.
Absolutely. And I always say that we have a direct relationship with the tree. Some of my friends call me a tree hugger. And I said, well, our DNA is the general makeup of each other. And so they breathe out when we breathe in, and we breathe in when they breathe out. And so, and the tree ordinances, and how important is that tree policies to municipalities and to governments to ensure that, that we have that and maintain that.
What's happening is with our trees is that there's a demand in Europe for wood pellets, okay, and these wood pellets are being co-fired, and to reduce emissions, to reduce the emissions, because they're right now dependent on oil and coal. So if we take this wood and mix it with coal, our emissions go from here to here. Okay, but what happens is when we do that, it removes that carbon sink. It removes that capability that we have to help mitigate climate. So we've got to create land trusts. Okay,
right? Absolutely.
We've got to create land trusts. All right. And this morning at 4 o'clock, like I got this morning, there are a multitude of land trusts in Georgia, but. Are these are the land trusts being implemented and such? Are they effective? Are they in the places that they need to be? Are they being complied with and enforced?
And see, right, and that's what I'm glad you said, to comply with and enforce, because as we have municipalities infused with counties, and some of the counties have these land trusts.
Right.
But you would want to try to join forces, but then when you said that we have to make it equitable,
right?
Okay, and we want to ensure that it is equitable,
right,
and in compliance with the communities that are invested in this,
right,
to ensure that they're getting the best return on their investment.
Right.
And so how do you see that coming together and fortifying those relationships from somebody who wants one and create someone who has one and implement those into the same? And do you have a question?
Well, no, and I just think that Mr. Harris is spot on, and I just want to give a shout out to Maritime Reed of Chattahoochee Hills.
Absolutely.
He is actually pushing towards 70% of their land.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, to be on the conservation. So.
Fantastic.
So we have that already in action.
Yeah, exactly. So building on our land trust, building on our conservation approaches, building on our preservation approaches as well. That's a huge footprint there that we have to maintain. That takes policy. That takes political will. That takes the community rising up and saying, "Well, wait a minute. We need more land," just like they did in that community and such. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to equity, a lot of folks a lot of black and brown people are not at the table with these land trusts. You know, so therefore the buying of property, the buying of land, and where these land trusts are established, you know, is not being guided by folks who have the same interests or the same cultural values and such.
Right.
So we've got to we've got to find a way to get in there, you know, and help direct that land trust, land buying, land selling process.
Absolutely, and again, it's funny that you mentioned Rise Up, right? Because as this year's theme for the city, the great city of South Fulton, our theme for the State of the City address is Rise Up. And as we have talked about that as during policy and implementation, City of South Fulton, we're going to rise up in policy and implementation and ensure that as the theme that you'll be hearing later on. And so that's interesting that you say that kind of just sparked that in my mind. And we're really going to take it forward.
Well, you know, it is about rising up. It's about rising up, making sure all the voices are at the table. Then crafting great policy. Then committing to implement that policy, complying with that policy, and executing that policy as well. You know, then then committing to rising up for all of our communities and such. You know, then rising up for federal policy. So rising up means not only local, but it means regional. Not only regional, but state. Not only state, but federal as well. And also rising up means a holistic, comprehensive approach to climate. Everything from food to ag to cars to homes to buildings. You know, all of that has an important part in shaping our world and making it a more just, sustainable, equitable world for all.
Wow, this has been awesome, guys. You've heard it from Mr. Garry Harris himself, President of Sustainability Solutions. And we just want to thank you for what you've been doing and the work that you've been doing, and we wish you continued success with that. And with that, we just have one last question.
Okay.
Councilman Reeves?
Well, sir, as we stated, what is environmental justice to you, and what can the communities and the people who are watching here now live do in their communities to further champion the cause of, as this education awareness symposium is a symposium that we're bringing here, but it's also action, because now we're going to the symposium in action.
Right.
What can the communities take?
Environmental justice is all about preventing disproportionate impacts, okay? And that means overburdening those underserved and marginalized populations, whether it be overburdening with air pollution or overburdening with development, overburdening with water pollution and such, overburdening them with lack of health resources and processed food, okay? All of those affect the quality of life of those people. And so we've got to make sure that justice is first, all right? And the first thing that we can do is educate people about environmental justice. And we started and are running now an Environmental Justice Academy. So folks in the communities can come to us. We put them through a 9-month program, and we go over rules and regulations and how to get involved, how to craft projects, you know, how to get money to fund the different projects, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all about knowing what environmental justice is, knowing that definition, and knowing that at every instance, at every opportunity, we've got to be vigilant to prevent those disproportionate impacts, because they occur all the time, you know. And sometimes they're right in our face, and sometimes they're silent. Sometimes they creep into our communities without us questioning it. In terms of, for example, gentrification, you know.
Right.
So we've got to be mindful of that. You know, we've got to have a justice first mentality. We've got to be equity centered, and we've got to make sure that our environment is not second, but first in our mindset.
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned that word gentrification, and I go back and always tell this, we laughed at it, that if you ever watch Boys in the Hood, Lawrence Fishburne in that movie, he gave a good expose and the gentrification in the early 90s in the movie, and something that we have all learned about and put it in a creative format. And so that's good. Well, that's what we're all about, is the education of this the Environmental Justice Academy that you just mentioned,
Right.
through the 9-month program,
Mhm.
we will get you more information on that. And it's 9 months symbolic as a birthing of that, is you're being taken into the knowledge, into the womb, the cocoon.
Right.
And when you emerge,
Right.
you will be more educated and more aware.
That's right, that's right. Absolutely. Matter of fact, coming out of the academy, the last thing we require is a birth. Because students actually have to produce a project coming out of that academy, something that's going to have impact in their communities, something that's going to advance the communities, increase the quality of life. It helps to eliminate those unjust practices.